Previously on Higurashi Go. We now return to Higurashi Go. At this point, I'm convinced Keiichi is practically unkillable. This man cannot die. Welcome to the August Hail. I'm August and I want to help you find something great to experience. Here in the channel, I review anime visual novels. But for this series, we are going to cover the anime adaptation of Higurashi When They Cry Go. These series videos will be a review and a reaction to each episode of Higurashi, as well as a comparison regarding the differences between the Higurashi Gou anime and the original visual novel. If you have not watched episode 13 of Higurashi When They Cry, I would highly suggest watching the episode before continuing with the rest of the video. And if you're looking for my specific videos regarding each episode, links are in the description down below. And with that, let's begin. This was a wild episode, not because of everything that happened throughout the episode, but just by the last couple of minutes. Let's cover the first half for a brief moment before we get to the good stuff. The grand protest happens and everyone's here to protest against the CWS. Oishi shows up to dispel the crowd, and Oishi and Keiichi have their little argument against each other. Fortunately, it was just Oishi showing his bravado as he lets Keiichi do his protest. He also backs down when the high-ranking society members of the Sonozaki family show up to aid them. Supporters from the Sonozaki family arrive to provide their support. A high-ranking assemblyman, a lawyer, as well as Oryo Sonozaki herself, behind the scenes, showing up in person to the mayor's office to force the CWS's hand. In the original visual novel, the CWS calls the Hojo residence. From there, Rika and Keiichi convince Satoko to confess that she's undergoing abuse from Teppei. Once she confesses, the police are on the ground taking Teppei before he can retaliate against Satoko. And then everything is fine. Satoko is safe, the kids go to the festival, and the conclusion of the Minagoroshi arc plays out. In the anime, the head of the CWS goes directly to Satoko's house, and Oishi escorts him there. We then skip to later that night where Satoko gives us the play-by-play on what happened when Oishi arrived. In conclusion, Satoko reassures Keiichi by telling him that Oishi restrained Teppei and took him away. During this conversation, we only have Satoko's words to go by and no other accounts to verify these events. Right before the festival, we are shown a scene of Satoko getting ready. Please note here that there are no signs of physical abuse on her body. Later, Rena states that Satoko was supposed to stop by the clinic for a checkup, however Satoko declines. Knowing Satoko's personality, I would expect this behavior and reaction, but this point still stands. Satoko takes Keiichi away from the festival during Rika's dance to talk to him privately. Here, Satoko asks if she can call him Nini, a nickname only exclusive to Satoshi. She also wants to give Keiichi something that was important to her big brother. This is probably Satoshi's bat, which is a signature item in Higurashi, which mysteriously hasn't shown up yet. Satoko invites Keiichi into her house with the most ominous looking shot so far. She then leads Keiichi into a room to wait while she leaves. Keiichi opens the lights and then gets brutally hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat by an angry Teppei. Satoko rushes back and is shocked by the appearance of her uncle. In retaliation, Keiichi tackles him and kills him with the bat before dropping to the floor. Satoko is then seen running out of the room afterwards. There are two theories I can see here involving Satoko. Satoko is either luring Keiichi into a trap, or Satoko didn't know that Teppei would be here. Which begs the question, how did Teppei escape custody from Oishi? I don't think Oishi would let him off the hook, but perhaps there was truly nothing wrong with Teppei and Satoko, and Oishi and the CWS let him go. Remember, Satoko had no signs of physical abuse, and we never actually see Satoko get abused. But this makes no sense because we would have heard about it from the cast if Teppei got out. I'm on the latter side, where Satoko didn't know that Teppei would be waiting here. I think that Satoko is genuinely surprised by Teppei's appearance. Moving on to the next point, Keiichi's state of mind. Upon looking at his attacker, Teppei is shown with red eyes, and the framing of this scene is covered in a blood red tint. I think that Keiichi reached his breaking point and went insane after getting hit. This is important to say because if we assume that he went crazy, especially after taking a bat to the head, he might be hallucinating the entire encounter. Which is dreadful to think about because that means that Teppei might not have been there. Which indirectly means that Satoko, the only other person in the area, hit him in the back of the head. The next scene that takes place is Keiichi waking up in the hospital. He is questioned by the cop who was with Oishi, asking about the events that happened on the night of the Watanagashi festival. Keiichi tells him that Satoko brought him over to her house, but he doesn't remember after that. He asks for Oishi, and the officer makes a noticeable reaction towards his name before leaving. The next and last scene is Rena confessing on the night of the Watanagashi festival. According to Rena, Oishi came at the crowd with his gun drawn, and Mion, Shion, Rika, and Satoko ended up dying. Now, her wording here is very particular. Oishi came at the crowd with his gun drawn. While at first people may assume that Oishi killed the club members, it doesn't explicitly mean that Oishi is responsible for their deaths, only that he drew his gun. According to Rena, she says to Keiichi that it was a good idea to go to Satoko's house, because the tragic event happened afterwards. Remember, Satoko left her house after Keiichi and Teppei fought, and we can assume that Satoko went back to the festival based on her reported death. Now, I don't think that Oishi intentionally killed him, nor did he go insane. I can't think of any real motive for him to go insane, but his fellow officer implies that something happened with Oishi regardless. In the words of Rena, this doesn't make any sense, and I'm very confused. But here is my stance on what I think happened. Keiichi arrives at Satoko's house. Teppei, who I assume escaped from the police station, hits Keiichi with the baseball bat, and Keiichi retaliates back, killing Teppei. Satoko runs off to the festival to tell the club members what happened. At the same time, some external force arrives at the festival to attack Rika, or Tomitake and Takano. Remember, Rika ends up dead at the end of each loop. Oishi then pulls out his gun in the crowd to fight off the intruders. Mion, Shion, Rika, and the newly arrived Satoko die in the crossfire, where Rena was able to hide from the enemies but ends up seeing her friends get killed. I will also assume that Oishi dies in this struggle as well, which would explain the police officer's reaction to Keiichi mentioning Oishi. The night of the festival ends, and at some point Keiichi is discovered and transported to the hospital. There was a lot to take in within those last couple of moments, and this marks the end of the Tatsure Damashi Hen arc. The next arc is a completely different one from the standard format of the visual novel, named Neko Damashi. There is a one-shot arc written in the Higurashi light novel and premiered as an OVA episode in the original Dean anime called Neko Goroshi Hen. However, I highly doubt that Neko Damashi Hen will be a variation of that arc, and instead will be a completely new arc. So what do you guys think of episode 13 of Higurashi Gou? What are your impressions of the new episode, and what are your thoughts on what might happen next? I would love to hear them. And as always, subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more. Please check out some of my other videos on the channel and check back every week for new content. If you're interested in my thoughts, you can follow me on Twitter at TheAugustHale. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.